Hello. So today we're going to go over maybe a fun one. I think I've already done more than one video on this channel, but I haven't done one recently. But this is going to be the Garen Hero Augment game. So whenever I'm playing the game and I see early units that have hero augment, so for example Shen, Yorick, Garen, Kabuko, like all of those units, I usually try to hold on to them. So see here, I just kind of sell and I buy the Garens. I'm holding on to this Garen pair because like, you know, whether or not you hit the Garen, having them early kind of gives you like an enabling of actually like taking the hero augment, if that makes sense. Right? Because if you take the hero augment and you have 0 Garens to start, it's usually a problem. So early game, as soon as the game starts, before you even see the augments, I think it's a good idea to usually hold on to like Garens, hold on to Kabukos. Obviously if you can, if they're not going to fit into your board at all, then probably not. But here, Garen's like a frontline unit. It's a Garen pair, right? I was going to hold it anyways. But anyways, we see that's a gold augment. Gold augments are usually going to be the most fucking whack ass. And Storied Champion, right? So this is going to be a Storied Champion game. My Garen spot is pretty good. I have a good variety of components, so I could make different items that can work with the Garen. Garen, typically you like to see swords and bows and stuff like that, because there's quite a few items like Titan Sterix that are really good on Garen. We'll go over the actual composition of the board, kind of like more of like a guide, breakdown in a little bit. But as you can see here, it's a really good spot for this. You do a quick scout, just see if anybody's hitting anything. I think this is maybe my biggest mistake, maybe. Like, I'm trying to preserve HP, so here I just take Shred Kale, and I take, and I play Story Weaver. I already have 5 Garens, right? That's pretty much halfway there, right? You need 9 total to get the 3-star Garen. And it's really essentially to get the 3-star as soon as possible, right? So that's where holding on to these Garens really matters, because especially with these 1-star hero augments like Kabuko and Garen, they give you a Garen 2, like they give you one that's upgraded already. So just making sure that you hold on to a couple early is how you ensure that you have a good spot. Typically here though, what you want to do is you really want to like lose a couple fights. Mostly because you want to have good item pick on the carousel, right? And a lot of times if you don't lose any fights, you'll have really bad items. Garen, out of all of the hero augments, I think is the most difficult to play in a way. How do I phrase it? I think Garen Hero, so the Garen Hero one, the items are very specific. It's similar to Shen. Right, with Shen, you need like double Gwinsu. If you don't have double Gwinsu, you're kind of fucked. Here I hit the Garen. With Garen, if you don't have like a particular set of 3 items, he really does nothing. Right, even for a hero. And for a long time, Garen, the Garen hero augment was really weak for that reason. In addition to some others. The only reason Garen Hero became really strong is because they did this insane buff to wardens. Then now you can just play 6 wardens with the Garen, and it's like insanely strong because it was such a huge buff to 6 warden to make the vertical frontline trait really strong. And that's the main reason why Garen Hero became such a problem, where it's still such a really strong option to take. But looking here, obviously I don't have any slammable item, right? What I mean by that is none of these are Garen items if you look at them. I'll show you the stats after. Actually, I could probably show them to you now. I just want to see carousel pick. And then we'll probably pause. We'll look at the roll down, see if I hit Garen 3 early. And we'll go over like the general like game plan you should have when trying to build the board, right? But basically, losing is pretty good. Right, you might think to yourself, whatever, but because you're playing a 1-cost reroll, a lot of times it's really nice to lose the first couple rounds, because then you get first pick on carousel, and then on carousel, if you're first pick, you can basically guarantee that you're making one of the best items for your unit, which is really important for these 1-cost rerolls, because you're kind of front-loading a lot of your game, right? Even if you're not playing like a Garen, if you're playing like a Kabuko, or even if you're playing something like, what's it's called, like a Kog'Maw reroll, right? A lot of times you want to lose the first couple rounds just to make sure you're first pick on carousel, because you need to hit those items as early as possible in order to like actually have the board be effective, right? In this case, I had a lot of Garens, which is why I took the Garen hero augment. I didn't necessarily have the best items. Sometimes it can be the opposite. You can have like Bis Garen on bench, and then you see Garen Hero, so you're like, yeah, I can just slam all these items and I'll probably be good to go. But you need to have like probably a combination of both of those, right? Me, I see that I have Sword. As you can see, I'm singling out Sword here because I looked in the stats of what the best items to slam on him are. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correctly, it's like Declaw, Titan, Sterix is usually the best. You really want Declaw. I think is his best item always. But here, like, you know, I can take the cloak and work towards Declaw, but it's better just to have, in my opinion, it's always better to have like a first completed item. Even though Declaw is really essential on Garen, I can probably make something else work is what I'm thinking. So one of the best, this next best item I can make is Sterix, which we'll look at the stats in a second. So that's what I'm going to make and what I'm going to slam. Now let's go to the stats and we'll just kind of look at it, right? So in general, right, we could just go by augments first, right? If you're looking at gold augments, this is on current patch. I'm going to put it the last patch. Nothing really changed with these hero augments, but it just gives you like more, right? Because we're really early in the patch, it gives a little bit more of like the number. How do I phrase it? There's a little bit more players that played the game, so it's a little bit easier to like kind of see. And as you can see, some of these other ones like Midnight Siphon, this was when Longshot, Wrath of Moon, like a lot of these did get dealt with this patch. But the Garen hero augment is kind of like in the realm of like Lucky Paws. It's like the high 4s, but it averages a little bit worse than some of the other ones, like a 4.3, right? So compared to like Lucky Paws, Nico, Yorick, right? It's similar to like this Shen build, right? And the logic that I have around why it's kind of in the same tier as Shen in terms of the hero augments is because the items are very specific. That's what I was saying with the Shen, right? Sometimes I take Shen build. I think I only was able... I never take it because I'm never in a good spot for it. Because if I don't have like a Gwynsu early, it feels like that unit really falls apart. And Garen is a similar way, right? If we go to the actual Explorer, right? And let's say you go... Storied Champion, and let's just filter. Let's assume we're gonna hit. As you can see, it still averages like above average. Average would be like a 4.5. It's still really good. And let's say I just have Garen 3-star, right? Let's just assume it's Garen 3-star, and we'll look at the units. So this is 4.12. I'll put craftable. So this is like the current patch, right? I'll just put it as last patch. It doesn't really change much. It's just that there's a larger sample size, so it's just a little bit easier to see, and it didn't really change that much between patches. As you can see, the best item is Declaw, then it's Titans. I think when I checked it, I was looking at placement as well, right? If you look at Delta, Sterix is like a little bit worse than Titans, but in my opinion, I feel like Sterix, if you look at placement, Sterix was better. So I said if I have to slam an item first and it's not Dragonclaw, I'll probably make Sterix. Now the reason Dragonclaw is really good, if you think about Garen's ability, basically what happens with Storied Champion is that every time Garen casts, he gains maximum HP. So Dragonclaw works kind of like the best healing on him because Dragonclaw heals a percentage of max HP. So if Garen is constantly gaining max HP, these items that recover maximum HP work really well, and also synergizes nicely with like the other items like Titans and Sterix and HP because it's a double cloak item. So Declaw just works really, really, really well. So you really want to have a Declaw on him always, right? Archangels is like a somewhat thing. We'll go over it after, but let's say I make Sterix first, right? If I make Sterix first, it says you really want Declaw, you really want Titans, and then Archangels is like meh. As you can see, it's like kind of okay. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but as you can see, a Garen 3 with a Sterix, you're already averaging upwards. But if you look at the rest of the items, almost everything is like Giga plus Delta, right? A Bramble, which is a tank item, a Redemption, which also heals maximum HP. It just doesn't like heal as fast, right? Right, it doesn't like work out as well as like a Declaw when you're gaining like maximum HP like that. Like a Gargoyle, a Bloodthirster, a Hodge, like healing items and tank items, they all like don't work really well on Garen, and that's like the big problem, right? Is that like unless you have like these really good items, he becomes really hard to play around, and sometimes you don't cap as high, right? Now if you hit all the good items, then you're set, right? For me, especially in this spot, I don't have Dragonclaw, right? Like I can't filter out because I don't have premium features. I can't filter out like without Declaw what I place, but you can kind of imagine that I need something to compensate for like max health healing. Something that does help is Archangels. So basically the way Garen works, like it's hard to like show it easily here without hovering. I could probably just go units and Garen and hover. Here, now I can show you. So basically what he does is he gains shield, and then his next attack deals physical damage, and the shield scales off of his AP, right? If you go under Storied Champions, let's just go augments. So just to explain how it works, because understanding how it works kind of helps you figure out how to like itemize and why these things work out this way. Basically with Storied Champion, instead of getting a shield, like your strongest Garen's ability now stacks max health instead of shield. So basically he gains maxed health with respect to his AP ratio, right? So as more AP that he has, the more health he gains. And then if he has more health than his target, his ability deals 50% bonus true damage. So he does a lot more damage if he's more HP than his opponent, right? So a lot of times you want to have stuff that gives a lot of HP. You want to make sure that he's scaling his max HP. You want to make sure that he has a lot of sustain as well, because he takes a while to attack, right? Now let's go on Team Builder, right? Team Builder, if you're playing this augment, basically what you're trying to play is vertical wardens, right? I'll just put the low cost wardens. Just know that you can replace any of these shitters for a set, right? Late game, you probably want to switch out Jax or like Jax. Sometimes you hit Jax 3 while you're rolling for Garen 3, so it works out. But typically you're playing something like this, and then you're just playing like some extra, either Sage as a backline, but your backline isn't super important. A lot of times you really want to have like an Irelia, right? As you can see, this is just like a level 7. So typically before this, you're basically playing like any sort of backline, similar to Kabuko. You can play like Morgana, what's it called? Sage, like where is it? You can play like a Morgana, Zyra, right? And typically you fit in one more Story Weaver at all points. So a lot of times it will look something like this, right? This is a rendition that I like to go for, right? You get the Kale. Kale, just for item economy, because you have to be really specific with your items for Garen. What I like to do is I just put green Kale, right? If you're playing like something like this where you're like very, very tied for reroll, I wouldn't greed a different kind of Kale. So this just gives Shred and Sunder, right? It does armor and magic resist reduction, which helps out your Garen a lot. Until you can hit something like a Spark or something else. And then Sage just gives Omnivamp and AP to your backline. And then you can just play like the Irelia late game, right, for the Story Weaver, as well as the general, like, what's it called? General damage that you get extra. There's a couple other renditions you can do. Obviously, you can drop Sages and the Story Weaver if you have Shred and stuff already. And you can basically just play like any kind of backline core, right? I've seen people play like 2-trick shot Kaisa. I've seen people play Rakan. I've seen people play like a Wukong, like Sage kind of build instead of the Irelia. All of these work. The most important thing, though, is to have this build, right? Like this, right? And typically before you hit Irelia or Morgana, you'll just play like Story Weaver, so you have the Kale, because your Garen will carry you. But you need 6 Warden, right? The spike that you get from 6 Warden, in terms of just taking less damage, and taking additional less damage at the beginning, it really helps out your Garen to live longer, right? All of these extra units that you're playing on your board is all to support this Garen, and then you're just trying to place the Garen to kind of like either drain tank or completely kill out the frontline units so that he scales up his HP, because the longer the fight goes on, the more HP the Garen has, and then the more unkillable the Garen is. And that's like the main thought process that you have towards building this. That's why units like Morgana that just do like AoE, because your Garen's going to be doing a lot of single target work, really nice. Irelia does AoE and kind of shreds, like basically just like does a bunch of damage to like the whole board. Works really well because Garen will do single target, and Irelia can kind of clean up a lot of like the little units, as well as if Garen just doesn't one-shot something, Irelia or Morgana can probably clean up shop, right? But this is generally what you're doing. But like I said, your backline can be very flexible. You just really need 6 Warden, right? Before there was other variations where you could play like 7 Story Weaver and then you revive Garen and stuff like that. But now, because of the Warden buffs, it's like essential that you're playing towards this. Like, it's just much better to play the 6 Warden variation, right? Like if I go on stats Explorer, right, and I go Garen, and I go Garen 3 stars, Storied Champion, and then I go traits. As you can see, like these are Umbral, Great, Duelist. These are all like if you hit max cap, right? That's why they're really high. Like 2 Duelist is probably like you make it to like level 10, you're playing like Lee Sin and somebody else. Same with Dragon Lord, right? Sage is often really good. 7 Story Weaver places high, a little bit higher than 6 Ward in terms of average placement, but it is a lot less games played. So some of these are very situational. Like obviously if you hit all the upgrades, the 7 Story Weaver version is really nice. And you can like tempo it, but the 6 Warden is like the general go-to, right? It's the general, like, this kind of works out the best, right? If you look at it in terms of like the delta, which I'm just looking average placement, delta means like this is how much it typically improves your placement by, right? You'll see that like the delta and the win percentage is a lot higher than the 7 Story Weaver one, right? It's more so that like the average placement 7 Story Weaver is a little bit better because you have the Kale carry, so you have like a little bit you have a little bit more reliability in getting like a top 4. But if you're playing for like max cap, like this is your strongest board, it's typically the 6 warden one, right? And that's why your delta is the best and your win percentage. I'm pretty sure win percentage is the best here. Oh no, it's win percentage is like these high roll situations, so that's hard to filter by. But anyways, when you're building your Garen, right, and then like in terms of items, you're typically trying to build Declaw, Titan, Sterix, right? Declaw is like your main healing item. Titans gives you everything Garen wants. It gives AP, as well as it gives stacking armor and magic resist, as well as attack speed. And then Sterix gives like the HP, as well as attack damage, right? So it works out really nicely, right? You gain a 25% once per combat. You gain a 25% max health shield. That's great, right? If you're healing your damage and then all of a sudden you could drop down, he gains a bunch of HP. Boom, he's back, right? It works out really well. Okay, so that's like the little like how to play guide. Now we're gonna actually like watch myself execute it, right? This is Krugs. I paused it at Krugs just so that we can watch it. As you can see, I'm just playing Story Weaver early, right? I have 2 Warden. Right now I'm rolling for Garen. I'm 1 off of the Garen, right? Like I said, I had a good spot for it. Roll for the Garen, very little gold. This is a very good spot, right? So even though I 5 lost, right? Don't get worried that I'm 5 lost. I shouldn't lose really any fight from now on. As you can see, sometimes you can roll for Sivir 3 as well, right? Because the Garen with the Sivir 3, it also helps buff the Kale. So you can use the Kale as a carry until you hit those Wardens. But as you can see, I kind of don't have any items. I got dropped, I think, like a belt and like, I think I got dropped 2 belts, right? And Warmogs isn't really something I want to put on Garen because he's gaining HP anyways. It's really like lame to put Warmogs on the Garen because he's just gonna like, he's gonna gain way more than 800 health, right? So it seems like a very waste of stuff. So right here, my item economy is really bad, right? I don't really want to slam anything here. So remember I was saying Archangels is kind of like, you see Archangels on Garen sometimes. It's not the worst item, but it's definitely not that good. It doesn't really increase your placement. But I have to hold on to this rod because I don't know if I'll have to play or make an Archangels. What I probably should do is make a guard breaker, just for the sake of tempo. Here there's Impenetrable Bulwark. Final Ascension is so good on Garen though. So I kind of greed. This is a little bit of an overgreed, right? Impenetrable Bulwark gives me the Dragon Claw, and that's like a Garen item in itself. So that helps me a lot. But Final Ascension is really nice, right? New Recruit is also really good, but it doesn't spike me as much right now. Final Ascension is very strong. So I'm kind of looking at these and I'm trying to think. But then I get Radiant Relics, and I think to myself, well, fuck it, I'll just get a Radiant item on Garen. And as you can see here, there's not really much. There's just the Radiant Archangels, right? Radiant Hextech, Radiant this, like all of these aren't that good. But basically what I was thinking in my head is like, would I rather have Declaw or would I rather try and Bink? Like I could take an Impenetrable Bulwark, which is what I was thinking about. Final Ascension's really good because Garen kind of stalls for a really long time. But what I was thinking is maybe I can just take like, get some sort of like Radiant item, right? Like Radiant Dragon's Will would have been really good. Radiant Titans would have been really good. Right? Like if I filter by Radiant items, all of them are minus Delta, right? Radiant Archangels, Radiant Dragon Will, Radiant Titans. I was kind of aiming for one of these 3. This is this patch. We'll go in like the other one that there's a little bit more Delta. But as you can see, this is what helps a little bit. As you like, if you look at all the Radiant items, there's a lot more hits, right? Even Radiant Hodge is really good, right? Because just like having the Radiant item that gives so much extra stats, suddenly there's a lot more slammable items. And what I'm worried about is not having an item to slam. So what I say is I'm just going to risk it, go for a Radiant item instead, and then see what I can do instead of like going for like Impenetrable Bulwark that just gives me like the 1 Garen item, right? And as well as Final Ascension. I think Final Ascension, it's pretty good, right? But in my head, I was like, I might as well just, I might be stuck with no items on this Garen 3. I need to spike right now. So that's why I went for the Radiant item, right? And I hit Archangels. So Radiant Archangel, it works really well. It gives him a lot of HP, right? But because the Archangels helps give him HP, I still need a healing item here. So I'm really looking towards like a Titan, like a Dragon Claw, right? Now, if you look, my Garen isn't really healing anything, but he's just gaining so much HP that he still survives, right? That's like the idea with the Archangels, right? Like you can see he's slowly losing health, but every time he casts, he gains so much health that it's like he's almost at full health always, right? Even though the health bar looks like it's depleting, he has so much maximum HP. Like, look, he ended the fight at 3000 HP, which is more HP than he started the fight with, right? He starts the fight with around 2000 something HP. I ended the fight with 3000 HP, right? It's because as I'm losing HP, because I'm gaining so much maximum health from the Archangels, it's almost like I'm healing, right? I ended the fight with more HP, even though I didn't heal a single time during the entire fight. Now, mind you, if I give myself a Dragon Claw and I heal maximum HP, I will be fucking unstoppable, because, like, you know, if I'm not healing at all and I'm still gaining HP just based on how much max HP I'm gaining because of Archangel, you know, it's kind of nutty. But what I do is, because now I made this Archangels, I know that I can commit my rod item to a Zoe, and I'm just playing this Zoe for a lot of this game, or for a lot of the early game, right? I can play towards 5 Story Weaver with Zoe until I hit the 6 Warden, right? Zoe really spreads Morello really good as well. And Morello's anti-heal, right? I have Shred and Sunder because of Green Kale, and now I have anti-heal. I have all my utility dealt with. I just need to focus on turning one of these into another Garen item. I also have Remover. I was very conscious this game because basically by hitting Garen this early, like, I am in a very good spot to play for first, right? There's a very high chance that I get a first. It kind of sucks that Darius showed up. I already hit my Garen. So this encounter, all it does is it makes the rest of the lobby get a lot stronger, right? For me, at least, like, I already hit the 3-star that I'm going for, and I'm just focusing on leveling. But now, all of a sudden, the game is re-rolling, so everybody who's, like, trying to hit a certain unit, they have on their bench, they can just be, like, constantly rolling to hit those units, right? So this is really bad for me, right? But either way, because I hit so early, I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'm probably going straight to level 9, right? I don't think I'm going to lose a single fight. Even if I lose a fight, it's not going to be by a lot. And I'm already trying to plan, like, really far ahead. Here, I think I take a Cloak. Yeah, I take Cloak because it's half D-Claw, right? If I can make the Dragon Claw, I know from stats, right? Dragon Claw with the Radiant Archangels, right? It will work really, really well. I know I don't have Titans, but Radiant Archangels gives me a lot of HP. D-Claw recovers max HP each time. Those two together, I should be good, right? If I hit the D-Claw, all I need is 1 Cloak drop, and I'll be fine. Right? Here, as you can see, I switch out my board a little bit, right? I still have 3 Story Weaver in, it's totally fine, but now I'm upping it to 4 Warden, right? You want to stack this vertical Warden so that you're really strong. And basically it's like a one-person show, right? I need to play all these, like, extra shitter units, like all these units that aren't necessarily the best, just to all support this Garen, right? I'm trying to stall out this fight so this Garen gets as strong as possible. This is a really bad matchup for me, by the way, because it's Ghostly. And my Garen's getting targeted early. Hopefully I can still win. This is the problem with no healing, right? I'm getting really sus on how low my HP is. But as you can see, the Garen just has so much raw damage and so much, like, total HP. Because the Archangel is recovering is giving me maximum HP, right? That's how Storied Champion works. But like I said, a lot of times you don't play Archangels. You'll be playing something more typical. You don't need the Archangels because Garen has enough AP from just normal stuff that if you have the healing, it's like, that's what I mean. It kind of compensates in a similar way, right? If you have a bunch of healing, then like with D-Claw and you have armor and MR from Titans, and Titans gives a little bit of AP, and you have Sterix, it's like you'll probably be fine, right? But in this case, this is kind of my build, so we're just going with it. But this is what I mean. There's very particular things of items. So if you're going for this Archangels, that's kind of how it works. A lot of people, some people, like, really like the Archangels because it looks cool. Everybody likes to see a number go up, right? The number goes up, you think it's, like, fun, right? But anyways, is it Darius encounter? What the fuck is this? I think it's Darius encounter. Maybe that's why, and so much gold. Anyway, so I'm basically just, like, econing up. I'm way stronger than most of the lobby, which is really nice. And I'm really hoping to, like, make it to, like, a level 9, right? Play around Irelia, right? Morello is pretty good on Irelia because she spreads it around the whole board. But this is basically, like, the game plan, right? You have to hit this Garen early, and you have to have items for the Garen. I'm really hoping to get a Cloak here. If I don't get a Cloak here, I'm going to be really sad because the whole world's going to be sad, and, you know, everything's bad, and, you know, whatever. Anyways, I don't get a Cloak. I get a bunch of all this random shit that I don't need. And I'm just sitting here. I have 2 removers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a Titans, right? It's not the best thing ever because I still don't have the healing, right? As you can see, the Archangels is fine in terms of like the maximum HP, but the healing is really important, right? I don't want to make a Hodge because the Hodge isn't as good as Titans in my opinion. I'd rather just have resistances, right? Warden makes you take less damage in general, but I have nothing that's giving me armor and MR, right? It's not like I have unified resistance or I have something like that. If I want to make this guy truly tanky, he has to have a little bit of armor and MR, and the Titans works out really nicely for that, which is why I made it. Here I'm just like, fucking, I'm just gonna make Zoe items, right? I have to slam my components. I'll hold on to this cloak. Maybe I hit a cloak eventually, like, please, like, and then I'll use my remover and I'll put the declaw on. That's like my thought process, right? And then here I'm just rolling in case I hit like, I'm rolling these units because I basically want to hit like a Nautilus, right? Nautilus is the warden that I would be missing in order to hit 6 warden. Right now I'm 4 story weaver. I can level and play 6 warden until later. It's obviously not going to be the other thing. Here it's like, it's either I think the best option is partial ascension. So I passed up on the prismatic ascension augment, but all the ascension augments are good because basically if your comp stalls, which it does, most fights go to OT because this Garen becomes unkillable. They deal more damage, so it's actually really good with a lot of these hero augments. It's typically not that good because a lot of times the fight's already over by the time partial ascension kicks in, but here it's like, you know, the way that people will beat me, the way people will beat this Garen is how do I phrase it? The only way they can beat Garen is if they out DPS, which is very uncommon, right? Or the fight lasts long enough that they kill off all the shitters, and then it becomes like a 4v1 on the Garen. And the Garen, because he does single target, like if you watch this Garen, look how slow he attacks. Ready? He's swinging like a fucking turtle. Boom, he finally kills somebody, right? Swinging like a turtle, right? And then does he cast? Ready? Didn't cast yet. Here it comes. Boom, he finally kills the Alawi. Do you see how long it takes? That's the problem. This is a very stall heavy comp. That's why partial ascension works, because as they're trying to, the Garen doesn't attack fast. This is like what happens in unfavorable situation. If this guy had a bunch of upgrades, I'd probably lose the fight, right? But as you can see, my whole board dies and the Garen lives, but he stalls out long enough that he's still doing damage. That's why it works. Anyways, I'm grasping at straws here, right? I'm trying to think, like, what do I play? I'm holding on to this Lysandra. I honestly should play the Lysandra over something, but I think that right now my strongest board is 5 Story Weaver. This guy is scary. We'll talk about it later, but that 6 Umbral guy, that is a very, very bad matchup for me. It's a bad match. Umbral is like the hero augment killer. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but like, Umbral is so bad for against hero augments, and the reason is because Umbral has an execute. So this guy has 6 Umbral, right? I don't think he's strong enough to beat me right now, but if he hits like a really strong board, it is like unwinnable. Because what happens is, like, the whole thing about the Garen is that he like lives forever, and as you can see, like, he gets to low HP, but you can't quite kill him, right? You have to whittle him down, but you can't really get to him. You can't kill him. But the problem is with Umbral, they don't care about it because they'll just execute. Like, watch, very soon my Garen is just gonna fucking vaporize, and I'm pretty sure I lose this fight. Oh, maybe not. It depends if I kill this Alun in time. Oh, I killed the Alun in time, right? But it's very close, right? I don't know where the execute threshold is. I think it's 25% or something. They keep changing it because of buffs and nerfs. But 6 Umbral has a really high execute. And what's going to happen is at one point my Garen's HP is going to be low enough that he's just going to fucking get deleted. And it doesn't matter, like, because like the whole point of Garen sustaining until late, and like, you know, as much time as it takes to get him to like 25 HP, it's like I would win if there wasn't an execute. But because that comp specifically executes at a certain HP threshold, the guy just gets fucking deleted. So it doesn't matter the hero augment. Anyways, the cloak's on a fucking Azir, so of course I don't get the cloak again. So I'm just sitting here cloakless, waiting for this fucking Garen. It's so frustrating because I know the right build, and I'm not trying to go for some meme build. I know how important Declaw is here, and I just can't find, like, I've been sitting on this cloak for so long. I just need, like, you know, if I don't get a cloak on Burbs, I'm gonna be so fucking sad, right? Because like I know what to do, and it's just so like, as much as I high rolled the other aspects of this game, this is the problem with the Garen reroll that happens a lot of the time. Because imagine if you not only didn't have these items, but you also didn't like get to this Garen, right? There's other units that have like a little bit more options, like Kabuko, for example. As long as you're building like tank items, you're pretty okay, right? So it kind of works out sometimes. And like Nico's pretty specific as well. But like some of like Yorick, for example, like you have a lot of options because pretty much like a lot of the tank items work, but he has a similar situation. You need like a declaw, but Yorick, I think redemption is really good on him. Garen here, redemption isn't that good. I might lose this fight. This is Ghostly, which is another bad matchup, right? The reason it's bad is because my Garen attacks really slow and he's getting these Ghostly stacks on him, right? So if this guy has like, he might beat me here, or I might just clutch it out, right? My Garen might barely clutch it out. But as I build these Ghostly stacks, he takes more and more damage. So if that person has like 3-star units and it takes my Garen a little bit of time to chew through, there's a problem. Now here is the part where I fuck up royally. Now I'm looking here and I'm thinking to myself, I need some Radiant tank item. It's not this, it's not this, it's not Shojin. Spark I'm considering because Spark recovers maximum HP. So I look at the stats for Spark and it's non-existent. So I don't know if Radiant Spark is good or not on Garen, but I think it was probably good enough. You know what I forgot though? I forgot that there's a cloak here. That's the bigger problem. I was so hellbent on looking at that. And then Radiant Bloodthirster. This is where I... Oh my god. Okay, so that's where I mess up, right? Now, everybody makes mistakes and stuff, right? I just want to really point out here what the mistake was, right? The mistake was that I was so focused on looking at the Radiant item that I didn't even see the cloak. You know, I've been talking how I need a cloak, I need a cloak, I need a cloak. There was a cloak right there. Like, that, it was right there. Like, oh my god. That's such a throw. Because I was so focused on, like, finding a good Radiant item. Also, there was Radiant Bloodthirster, and I accidentally rolled past it. That one, I know I made a mistake. In my head, I was like, fuck, wait, that was Bloodthirster. I was so focused on, like, looking for, like, Radiant Declaw that I didn't look at it. Anyways, I lose against this guy. This guy's just Recon Bob, just really fucking strong. I have Radiant item on bench, which is really bad. I probably want to put Radiant item, like Radiant. I ran out of time and it just rolled into Archangels. So I have a second Radiant Archangels. I don't think it's double Radiant Archangels, Garen. I think it's definitely like spread the damage and put it on like the Zoe that can do like some extra work for me. But I'm just dizzy. I'm dizzy and upset. That's what's happening right now. I'm confused. I'm upset. I'm like, why didn't I just take the Radiant Bloodthirster? Radiant Bloodthirster would have solved my problems because even though it's not the same as like a Declaw, it at least causes some healing. I pop Anvil. There's no fucking cloak, right? Like, it was so important to take a cloak there because now I still don't have healing on the Garen, and it's fine, right? But this is how you don't get a first. You know what I mean? Also, I'm like so dizzy. I make a redemption here just like because maybe it'll cost a little bit of less damage. I pick up my components. There's no cloak in the components either. I have no space on bench to take the items off of this now. So I'm trying to like desperately put this Radiant Archangels on this Zoe, and I'm just fumbling the bag here. But I think, like, you know, I'm not going to show you a perfect game. If every game I showed you was perfect, I'd be in Challenger, right? I'm Master, right? So a lot of times like these things happen, you make mistakes like this, but it's really important to like understand, even if you're in a spot like this where it looks like you're game winning, there's still comps I have to worry about, right? There's the Ghostly guy and there's the Umbral guy. So if I don't have like the perfect setup against the Ghostly guy and the Umbral guy, that's how you don't get a first. Right? Because this game is 100% a firstable game, but these two mistakes or these couple mistakes this last round, this is why I probably won't go first this game, right? And we'll see. I'm pretty sure I don't go first. I think I lose to the Umbral guy, spoiler, but we'll watch it out. The augment's still broken, right? Don't get me wrong, right? I'm not even playing the max cap. I'm still playing like 5 Story Weaver. I'm not even playing 6 Warden. I'm on level 9. I'm rolling for Irelia as well as another Warden so that I can play 6 Warden. So here I'm putting in this. I put in the wrong unit. It's this over this. I'm confused. There we go. And now I need to remove this. Put Archangels on the Zoe. And I'm just going to have Zoe carry kind of. I could put it to like a Morgana, right? These are good Morgana items. And I could play like Sage Morgana. But for right now, this is just my board. Like it's okay. It's not that bad. But I should be really strong, right? As you can see here, in a lot of these fights, like everybody kind of spikes off a Radiant item. Even Zoe does a lot of damage, and she does clean up the shop, right? She hits like multiple units, so she does a lot of work for me, which is really nice. So I'm not too upset about having like a radiant item on this Zoe, because she's kind of becoming my main carry. And as you can see, I do have a duplicator, and I've been collecting Zoes, so I can always play towards this Zoe 3. And so it's not the end of the world, right? It's definitely totally okay. I have to like arrange some stuff, right? Ideally, I want to put Set onto this, right? I want to put Set next to my Garen. Here I get some random support items. I could also work towards making like a thing, like a regular item, but I do have some like extra components here. It's probably going to be Edge of Night on and Guard Breaker on the Set, because the Set's going to be kind of like a carry for later, right? And then Nautilus causes stun, so he's just better than everybody else. I know I'm playing Story Weaver. I still have Story Weaver in. It's just because it gives Bruiser, which is a little bit of tankiness, right? I don't really feel like dropping a Galio too, but typically you're not playing the Galio. Typically you're playing like, you know, in place of Galio and Riven, you're playing something like backline units. Like you're playing like a Zyra and what's it called? You're playing like in place of these two units, you're usually playing like some kind of other backline unit because your front line's strong enough, and you're playing like an Irelia, right? And then you're just 3 Story Weaver. But you know, for me at least, I don't really care that much. It's totally fine. This guy I have to watch out for. He has 2 faded emblems. He might be going for 10 faded if I'm not keeping my eyes peeled. He also has a greater duplicator, which is a little bit scary. But as you can see, even though this is suboptimal, because it's Radiant Archangels, I gain so much maximum HP that, like I said, it's almost as if I have healing, right? I'm just saying the most optimal thing to do is to also give him healing. But this, like, there's some matchups that are going to be tough regardless, that I don't think these mistakes will matter that much. Here I just take a Ghostly Spat. There's nothing really that I need in terms of items, right? I actually have like way more items than I have a spare item on bench right now as we speak, right? Well, not on bench, but I just like put items on this this Riven that I'm trying to swap out for. Rakan is really good here, but like I have Rakan and a replacement Riven, so I should probably buy Rakan, but I finally find Irelia. That's what I was rolling really deep for, and then I just put Ghostly on somebody, right? Ghostly works because I think I already have Ghostly in always, because I'm always going to be playing Alawi because she's one of the better tank units. And then here I'm trying to think like who do I put this I think I just put on Set, which is what I was saying before. I put on Riven as like an item holder because I knew I was going to sell the Riven eventually. But I should have held on to the Rakan, because I think that Rakan with Riven or Rakan with Soraka as some max cap is probably a little bit better than what I have going for me right here. And then I'm also one off of Zoe 3, which would be really nice if I can hit that. This is an awkward matchup a little bit because the Lee Sin stuns, so it could really interrupt the Garen, but I'm not too worried about this one. I'm definitely going to win. But as you can see, this game hasn't been that difficult, right? A lot of the fights, besides like 1 or 2, like that Ghostly fight or whatever, or that one person that had like a bunch of upgrades, I just got railed. There's not much to do here, right? There's not much you can really do in terms of positioning, right? Because your Garen's always going to be like the last one alive. You just want to kind of try and preserve your backline, right? If you can spread out your backline, if they have like a Morgana or something along the lines of that, right? Just so you just don't get like one shot and then your Garen's like isolated alone. But I'm just rolling on 9. I'm just looking for upgrades, right? If I can find one more copy of Zoe, then I have Zoe 3. And Zoe 3 is fine, right? It's not the end of the world. I get free Arcanist in, right? She does damage to backline. Like, she can randomly just kill a backline unit because she has backline access. It works really nicely as a pair with Irelia because both of them can kind of whittle down with some AoE to help out the Garen in terms of just killing shit. This is one of the scary matchups. The thing is, he has Trenchcoat on a Riven, which seems really fucking troll, and I don't know why. Because Trenchcoat on, like, anybody else is probably better, like a Ghostly unit. But he's not. He's just Trenchcoat Riven for some reason. So, like, whatever. I guess that's okay. But as you can see, the problem is, like, the matchups that are remaining, the people that were the strongest in the lobby, are all the matchups that are really difficult for me. They're ones that can spike and can actually beat my board, right? This guy is, like, you know, he's going for a Loon 3, and I can't really stop it because I'm holding a bunch of Zoes that makes it easier for him to hit a Loon. I'm checking if he's going for, like, a 3-star 4 cost as well, just in case, because then I'll start holding Silas's and those type of units, right? I could level for an additional Story Weaver, but that's not really as important. It's probably level for, like, either Duelist or Umbral, just to help out, like, frontline as well as, like, execute and, like, help out the Set, because the Set's going to be kind of, like, a secondary carry at one point. Here it's probably just Deathblade on Irelia. Just maximize the damage output as much as possible. But yeah, I'm trying to debate here. Like, you know, this might be like a go 10 angle, but in my eyes, it's like as long like I should be fairly strong. The problem is this guy primarily, right? Without healing on Garen, it's pretty much like a guaranteed loss. Like, I don't see how I can beat Umbral. Even with healing, it's a really bad matchup, right? Even if my Garen has some sort of healing, this matchup is very fucking bad. And he also, I think he's like level 8 and he has a set 2. Even though I have 2 sets, like I have a set pair. I don't know. Or did he go 9 yet? I don't know if he went 9 already, actually. I'll double check when we actually fight his board. But watch, this is against Ghost, and you'll see what I mean, right? How close it is. I probably even lose against Ghost, right? Watch, ready? Boom, the Garen just fucking died, right? Because of the execute threshold. And that was against Ghost. That wasn't even as real. It's a very uh-oh situation, because in TFT, sometimes there are things like that. Oh, he did go level 9. Yeah. Level 9, set 2. I have a set 2 now. He's not itemized, but, you know, ideally I can itemize it. Here I hit the Zoe, so now I have Zoe 3. So that does increase my damage output a little bit. This Kale late game, I should ideally get, like, a little bit more, like, Sunder / Shred that will help out my team. But my Garen mostly does physical damage, and I have the Irelia, so I should be fine, right? That's, like, the main reason that this works out really nicely. Here, I try and position my Irelia on the opposite side. I'm just trying to make it so that the set stun doesn't really get me. But it's just a very tough matchup. As you can see, my whole board just going to get deleted, right? A lot of times against Umbrals, you have to, like, out DPS them. This stall type comp doesn't really work. Because look here, even if my Garen had a healing item, let's say my Garen was maximum HP right now, it would go to overtime and he would die to the Umbrals anyways, right? Let's be honest here. It's just a really bad matchup, and that's why, because the execute, right? Even if you have something like Declaw and you heal up and you're like constantly healing up, the problem is the rest of your team is gonna die anyways. Especially in a board like this, all of these units are basically shitters, right? Obviously, I can transfer these Amumu items onto like Nautilus. It's probably a little bit better to put on Nautilus, if I'm being honest here. But it is not. This is how you lose a lot of the things. Now, if we're being optimal, technically, I did make the mistake with the Declaw. I did make the mistake with the Radiant Sword, right? This Garen would be definitely a lot stronger with Radiant Bloodthirster, right? Don't get me wrong, that's definitely true. What I'm saying is that this Garen takes so long to kill a singular unit. Like, watch. Look at him on the Shen. He casted once. He casted twice. He's going to cast a third time, right? It's just because this guy is so much weaker than me in terms of, like, board strength. But it's still pretty close, right? Like, this is, like, a ghostly reroll that made it to level 9. Doesn't have bis items on anybody. Has, like, a trench coat on a Riven. You know what I mean? It's not like the most insane board ever. Here I'm debating what to take. Umbral would be nice for execute, but I already put all my items on Irelia. I just kind of let the Umbral slide because I'd rather just take a QSS because I think QSS is a pretty good set item. So I'm just trying to think about a set item. I don't think I can out execute the Umbral player. I don't think my Irelia is gonna randomly execute the backline units. Here I'm just rolling for Irelia 2. Right, ideally I hit Irelia 2, but I wanted a set item because my idea is that maybe my set can stun the backline and things will be great. But the main damage dealer is this fucking dude. It's so hard to get to, right? Because the Lilia executes. She has Radiant Shojin. She has a bunch of AP, and she just hits everything and just executes. It's so fucking difficult to fight. But here, we're fighting Clone again. Maybe I can win this time. We have Nautilus on same side, which is pretty bad because my Garen might get stunned. Right? But the problem is just like the way you're playing this board, it's like maybe this is like a 7 Story Weaver angle and just do more damage. But the problem is like there's very few boards that can really beat this like max cap Umbral board. Like this guy has a very strong board of Umbral, right? This is a very firstable board. So long as I can kill all the Umbral units, I might be able to win. But the problem is because he's 6 Umbral, there's too many heavy hitters, right? There's the Alune that I have to kill. There's the set that I have to kill. Here I have the Irelia now, so that's pretty good. But there's like Silas 3 items, this guy 3 items, this guy Radiant item, this guy 3 items, right? Not even capped yet because he didn't even hit a Lune 3 and he has 49 HP. It's just so difficult, right? And the reason I'm just emphasizing how difficult it is, I'm just saying like in this case in particular, right? Because of the execute, right? But you have to, here I'm trying to shuffle. I'm trying to make it so that my set maybe stuns the Lilia, right? But even though, like, this augment, you know, people complain about the hero augments being broken, they definitely are, right? As you can see, the only comp that's able to beat me is, like, this giga capped out board where everything is upgraded and he's going for, like, Lilia 3 for how hard he high rolled, right? And it's strictly because of the executes, right? If there wasn't for the execute, I might even win against this guy. But anyways, this is a Storied Champion, and it was like a little bit of a guide, right? I made sure to show you guys like some of the board and how to play it. Like I said, you know, a lot of the other stuff doesn't matter too much, especially like backline. Obviously, I messed up my items a little bit, but this is just to show you. So long as you have like 2 out of 3 of the items really strong and you hit your Garen 3 early, you'll be fine a lot of the time. And yeah, hopefully this was more fun. This is updated, right? I think I did 2 Storied Champion videos already of different variations. This one's like the update for how it's played nowadays because I finally hit it. Basically, since the last time I uploaded those videos, I haven't hit Storied Champion until now. So, you know, it's been terrorizing a lot of the elos, so just like, you know, be wary. And also, like, just know, like, if you see Archangels, it's a little bit bait, right? But that's kind of how it works. This is like the more funny build. Obviously, it's better to have some of the other items. But anyways, I digress. Thank you for watching, and hopefully that was an enjoyable one for you guys.